Hello, Culture Matters podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here's a quote just for this podcast. A great CRO builds a system where revenue is not the outcome of heroics, but the result of a repeatable process. Ben Horowitz. Our guest today is a long time friend of the Culture Matters podcast. They are someone I hold in a high regard when it comes to understanding the dynamics of organizational structure, business, thinking in or second order thinking. They have a background not only in business success, in the C-suite, in growing businesses and having them learning from the ups and downs of selling and being acquired and all of these exciting things. If you haven't listened to episodes 331, 591, and 774, our guest today, Matt McHale, is a regular on the Culture Matters podcast. And uh, man, it's almost 10 years that we met at a speaking event. And it shows the power of relationships and culture. Matt, thanks for coming on the Culture Matters podcast, and thanks for everything you do as a advisor and consultant leader to the small businesses, small medium-sized businesses that are listening to our Culture Matters podcast today. I got a million questions today, or this chief revenue officer, CEO dynamic, and so much more. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, Jay. Thanks for having me as always. It's funny you mentioned three, and I was like, wait, I was on three times. The third was the group when you did the marathon. Yes, so on there for with a few different people, and that was a great time. So that was the 700 whatever episode.
Yes,
Yes,
74, the I believe the New Year's Eve Lollapalooza.
yes, that was a fun time.
And another acknowledgement, you and there's a couple people orbiting the Culture Matters sphere of influence that have been hard pressed over a handful of years around the value of integrating real intelligence and artificial intelligence. And I can tell you, I can give a testimonial for you, for audience. That's a damn good idea because as a recipient of that wisdom from yourself and a handful of others orbiting my sphere of influence, I love uh, these tools.
Yeah,
I believe, and I want to. We can start there a little bit because you've been talking about this for years, and teaching and proselytizing. Um, I believe that the core values of Culture Matters: preparation, urgency, curiosity, consistency, focus are all have all been uh, emphasized from leveraging these technologies like artificial intelligence for preparation and
yep.
data analysis. And I want to acknowledge you for speaking about this for now years and even just start the conversation there, right? How What's the opportunity in your mind for those that haven't listened to episodes 331 and 591 or followed you on Clubhouse over the years or are connected to you? What is the opportunity in that domain for every one of us? And what is Jay going on and on about? this this
And it's funny because I was just talking to someone else about this. I have a really good group I meet with on Wednesdays, and we discuss everything going on in the world of AI, and also there's a lot of marketing individuals there too. And we compare marketing AI because when you talk about either of those, they are very broad terms and they cover a lot within one word. So you can say AI to somebody and it's Chat GPT. That's all they know. You can say AI to somebody and they've been involved in it for years or decades and they understand machine learning, it's involved and all the different things, everything that's led us to this point where it's becoming more adaptable to the consumers the last few years with the rise of the large language models and everything else. So as far as the opportunity, it's endless. I spoke with a group of students a little while ago, and there's an organization I work with called the EEA, which Emerging Entrepreneur Academy, and they really help high school students to understand entrepreneurship and the opportunity to start and run your own business. So obviously AI was a big part of that discussion, and telling them, I went through Y2K, I went through, the dot com that became the, dot bombs. I went through, the rise of the smartphones that we see now. And you remember when the first iPhone came out and the Android phones and all the different battles back and forth and the horrible Microsoft phones that came out during the time. But none of that compares to what AI is going to be. It's going to be so ingratiating with everything that gets done and everything in our lives. You hear a lot about possibility of mass layoffs and people losing jobs and those things. And I think just like any other technology and any other time, there's going to be where this job that existed is going away because of AI, but that opens up new doors and new opportunities for people to be able to use the technology and use it in such a way that you can do more and better things moving forward. So most times when I'm working with companies, I'm like, yeah, this is not looking at, oh, what can we replace, our people with AI? It's imagine having a great team and bringing in this great technology with systems and processes, how much more your team can do, how much more you're able to do that. And you're really at the point, if you're not doing that, you're going to lose out to companies that are doing that and
Mm.
using AI in the right way. And that the chief revenue officer, that leads a lot into that. That's a big part of that, because you're almost when you look at chief revenue officer, you could almost say there's a combination now of chief revenue officer being a chief systems officer, along with like the CTO and other parts of that in that C level. So yeah, I mean that's opportunities are really endless as far as AI goes and where things are, where they're headed.
Is part of that because it the can you unpack functionality, cross functionality, or like if I think of it, these new technologies like artificial intelligence, for example,
Hmm.
integrating that into daily systems and processes from department to department.
Hmm.
Is there a connection between the role of the CRO and that the instantiation of these technologies into the day to day?
Oh yeah,
Like I think of connective tissue, or
100%. Yeah, yeah.
if you
I
could
mean,
elaborate on that.
right. Yeah. If you look at the traditional role of a chief revenue officer, they are the architect of growth. They're going to be responsible for unifying sales, marketing, partnerships, and customer success. And that customer success, that customer service role has really, in the revenue world, has really become more and more important as time goes on here. Because back in the day, you'd have the traditional, hunter salesperson or the farmer salesperson, and now you rarely see someone that's just that, because the relationships and the way a lot of businesses are built now, where they have an ongoing revenue model, ongoing relationship with the customer. You have to continue to build those relationships. So as we go on here and introduce that customer success, that team that comes in that continues to work and make sure you're the customers that you have are continuing to make sure not only they're happy, but you're continuing to grow with them and exceeding their expectations, and doing all those things. And in doing that, there's a lot of revenue that comes from there. Whether it's finding other ways to work with that client recommending. I think you just talked about some of your relationships before we went live, Jay, and just how because of relationships that go back 5, 10, 15 years and just being with them, people are coming to you and saying, "Hey, we need help here. We need that." That's the same with with your clients. The longer you're with them and give them that opportunity of growth and making sure that you're keeping them happy, those things come out of it. So all of those is in that chief revenue officer. So
Mm.
that becomes that one engine to deliver, growth, not only growth but predictable growth. So now AI is a huge part of that because of what you can do now with the systems and the processes, and what took a while before, or you had to bring in other people to help you. You can do that very easily and quickly with AI and using some of these systems to be able to see the metrics that you need to see immediately.
It looks like it was the origin of the title CRO. This came from the SaaS revolution or renaissance or the technological. So I have a curiosity there, maybe unpacked, if it had. So in those relationships, organization to customer, there's some type of recurring, let's say, recurring economic recurring. There's an economic relationship of occurrence, let's say.
Yeah. Yep.
Now, in that, embedded in that would be um, there's a natural inertia in any relationship. There's a natural weight. So the question becomes, do we need you or do we want you? And it's almost like a marriage. You have to resell every day when you wake up on, the vows and re-buy in to this thing. So I think of like my question is more of is the CRO was the CRO's evolution to respond to this now almost implicit there's an implicit, hey, we're in business for a while. We're a SaaS. We have this recurring. We're partners.
Yep.
Now, what are you doing for me beyond just the fact that clearly we're partners?
Yep.
So that role is now responding to how do we serve? Is there alignment? Are there core values being lived out? Is it a mutually beneficial relationship? And then that's number one. And then number two is what else can we do for the client? That's what I'm gauging from your,
Yep.
am I kind of in the right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think you nailed it with that SaaS model, and where you had that the MRR, the monthly recurring revenue, and the annual recurring revenue, and all those things, and tying that into where it wasn't just a one and done sale, where it wasn't like you're going out selling a widget, you sell it, you move on to the next sale. You have this, this system or these um, services in place where it's going to be a continued, whether it's a monthly, whether it's, an annual, biannual, whatever it is, relationship where you're going to continue to grow this relationship with it. And, that CRO role really came in, because we have the term marketing and sales, and people have always, kind of thrown them together, and it's really not. You could say marketing and service, sales and technology, like all parts of the company make a, they combine in some way. They all work together in some way for revenue, and that's a big part of what that chief revenue looks at, where they align every stage of that customer journey into that revenue engine, to look at that, where you have salespeople that they're just focused on the sales, they're focused on the numbers and doing those things. You have marketing where they're just focusing on that message and branding and all the things that they need to do. Where that chief revenue officer is can come in and combine all those things and be able to see from the initial step, from the initial contact of just identifying a prospect, all the way to a happy, satisfied customer who's repeating business with you, and bringing in more business through referrals and relationships. So that whole overused term of customer journey, that's where that role really comes into play, and is really for customers and companies a very important role. It's funny because we've talked about this before as far as the C level and all the different roles, and I think some people get too wrapped up in the titles of like, well, this, this role, or, chief technology, chief revenue, CEO, COO, CFO, and they get away from the roles and responsibilities of that, and really saying, okay, look, this is what we need as a company. Who cares what the title is? Who's going to do this? Who's going to help us get there? That's really the way you need to look at this, as opposed to just throwing titles out there.
I want to conceptualize some of the sales, the marketing piece for a second, and you can
Mhm.
unpack this. So,
Yeah.
salesperson, there's new business that there's always attention because of inertia, because
Yep.
of the necessity of growth, and then there's current business, and there's going to be attention in, hey, the core values reflect, or they're reflected in how that relationship is maintained, how that relationship is developed, the current, right, the past client. Uh, and then the new business. So sales is in new and it's in old. And that becomes a core value conversation. But there's a tension there implicitly in new
Yep.
and old, like in anything. I think part of inherent in this conversation on the SaaS piece is if there's a recurring relationship economically, there's even more emphasis on, hey, are you paying attention to the old, and like what else are you doing for them? So
Yep.
that way you avoid uh negative emotions,
We
let's
can,
say.
yeah. Yep.
Okay,
And,
negative
and
feeling.
I'll throw in one
Keep,
more to
please,
that
please,
is
please.
the lost business, the business that you don't get.
Opportunity cost.
That's as yeah, that's as important as figuring those things out as to why did we not get this business, what happened here with this relationship, and what things could we have done better, so that is something too where, hey, it might be a timing thing. So we lost this business, but we want to make sure that they continue in that long term pipeline, and we continue
I
to
mean, I can say if from
build a relationship.
experience,
Yeah,
the relationship could be unbelievably powerful, but they may just not even know
right.
that you know this, or you've learned this, or you've done this. And, there's only so much space and time to occupy at once. And
Yep. Yep.
there's
Yeah.
maybe more people mathematically than could be.
Right.
Okay, so I got
But
that, right?
but if you learn that lesson, you can take that and say, here's sales, here's what you can learn from that, and here's the relationship. Here, marketing. Here's where we messed up here. Where here's where that message didn't get across, and what can we do from a marketing standpoint to improve that message? Service in this relationship with these people that we're trying to build. This
Oh, oh,
fell down, and here's how we can make sure that we're not making that same mistake with current clients, with people that have been around and new clients.
I want your insight on this because this sales tension, right? That naturally, I'm not saying it's a negative, it's like an inherent part of business.
Yep.
There's new and there's old, and it takes responsibility, core values, lived out leadership to maintain the two. But now marketing is one piece, right? That's another piece. And now marketing can be proactive or reactive. What I found is, I want what are your thoughts on this. If the sales component lacks that leadership spirit, marketing can very easily become support to sales versus meaning reactive to sales, or just kind of like sales is, yeah, I don't want to use unkind words versus the almost proactive or ahead of the curve,
Right.
because the sales is lacking a leadership, it's lacking a spirit, it's
Yeah.
lacking integration. The marketing is not being proactive. Now it's reacting to that lack of spirit, the lack of leadership. And what it seems to me is that the concept of the CRO is a, a f- is a leadership concept. It's there's a leader in the role of aligning of aligning the interests
Yeah.
of the organization in the proper order, so ultimately the customer benefits, but the organization is proactive, not reactive.
Yep. Yeah, and so if you look at marketing sales, there's always been the leads aren't any good. Well, they could sell better. These are great leads, So the Glengarry Glen Ross, yeah, these are the great. You're not getting these leads until you do a good job of selling what you already have. So there's always been that tension, we'll say, between the two of and listen, depending on the company and what your product is, If you're good enough at marketing, you don't need traditional sales. Look at like a Alex Hormozy or something that he just did recently, where he got all these sales from marketing. He just did a really good job of marketing this product that he came up with and putting that out there. And for that, it makes sense and it works in that way. Where or if your sales is strong enough, your marketing can be more of just building awareness, and then the sales comes in the door that way. Or you have a hunter that's going out and just, I don't even need marketing. I have my network, my relationships, and I can go out and just find the business. But in for most companies where we're at now, and going back to that full relationship, yeah, you need to really combine those two and bring those together where those they are complementing each other. They are working in that system that's going to bring these things that make sense along that whole path of how things are coming in, making sure that you're looking at the data all the way along, and seeing how this is how they're coming in. We can clearly identify, once our sales team talks to them, we know who's the best, the ICP, ideal client prospect, and bringing that back to sales, so we can say these are, we want more of these people, and then marketing, can reply to that and make sure that we're going after those people through targeted marketing, all those things. So it's that cyclical, that keeps coming back, and all the way again to customer, the customer service, and that relationship can come back to both sales and marketing and say, hey, look, here's more opportunity for these clients that we didn't identify before, but we can do that. So now sales can know that moving forward, to even bring that up sooner in the relationship, and marketing can now speak to that.
I want to ask you your thoughts on two concepts: incentives and engagement.
Hmm.
So like I think of it's if my
Incentives for
so like the
employees or
concept
incentives for the clients themselves.
incentives in the context of let's say let's go salesperson first.
Yep.
If I'm a salesperson, I'm incentivized to sell, I'm going to get a percentage of my sales.
Hmm.
I may not be incentivized to look backwards. I may be incentivized to look backwards, as in I just sold that account. I have the relationship, it's there, but I'm incentivized to look forwards. The the leadership is incentivized to look backwards because when I say leadership, I mean, you know, ownership,
Yep.
because they're held to account with the organization not going out of business and being able to support the needs of the people.
Right.
So there's a mutually beneficial incentive. What sales sells and is incentivized to sell, ownership is incentivized to not go out of business and to make a profit. So
Yes.
there, so there's an accountability to be engaged, and so when I think of how you're breaking down the chief revenue officer as a value add in the sense that it's a person in a position of leadership to look forwards and backwards and sow the re-sow the wound as it rips because there's growth because
Mm.
the incentive now if you can help me kind of unpack this a little bit because I'm trying to
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
to
So I think from a sales standpoint, yeah. I mean, again, if you look at it simplistically, of look, where I'm getting paid to go out and get sales, and that's where I make the majority of my money. Hopefully, when you're doing that for the salespeople, the majority of that money should be coming from that commission or that incentive you have set up for them, to do that. So they look at it like, and you look at it as the company as well, because a lot of times salespeople don't, they've established a relationship, especially if it's a more higher ticket item, or a longer sales cycle. They've now built a relationship with these people, and it's very hard for them to give that up. And so there's still that relationship that needs to go on and do that. But at some point, it's like, well, yeah, we appreciate that, but we also need new sales coming in. So we need you to focus on building more of these. So that's why we have that service side of it. But the salespeople, the ones that are really good, we'll do both. Yeah, we'll look at the new and look at forward, but look at the old. To see what worked, what wasn't working. How can we improve this, and working those things. So they're
I
going to
agree with that.
look at both levels of it. Not in as in depth as a chief revenue officer or someone in the leadership, the C-suite. They're going to spend more time looking at that data and doing all those things. Because again, the salesperson, we want as much time as possible going out and finding new business and continuing to grow in the business. But the rest of them are going to look at that, and marketing is going to look a lot of those things as well, to look at that data and bring that back. So I think there's a fine line for the salesperson when it says, okay, how much of this relationship do we still want you to build and look at and be involved in moving forward versus finding the new roles and all those things. And that's always very dependent on the company, what you're selling, the relationship, all those things that come into it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the engagement piece was en engagement or disengagement has a relationship with not just the individual, but the growth.
Hmm.
I could be absolutely engaged, but my organization may have outgrown me,
Yep.
or I could be, or the organization hasn't grown, but I've become disengaged. Like there's that whole because you said what makes a really good salesperson is the really good salesperson is living in between those two worlds. And then my question was, well, what makes them really good?
Um, yeah, and that's that there's obviously the drive is a big part of it. If you look at if you break down if you're coming up with some sort of Myers-Briggs or disc profile or something to say, okay, what do we want in a good salesperson? We don't want to have money issues. We don't want to have where they think the value of what they're selling. They're afraid to ask for $1 million sale. Those kind of things where so there's a lot of things that go into what makes that great salesperson, but I think it's when you so that's a big part. Going back to how we are talking about, that's a big part of when you start to grow this and you identify those great salespeople. What got you to $10 million won't get you to 25, $50 million.
Well,
You have to change. You have to grow. Like you can't just continue to throw more people at it because that's not going to be good for the bottom line in doing those things. You have to be able to do more with less, but then identify what's working to bring in new people as well. So that's a part of that sales journey when you talk about the great salespeople. Where we're like, hey, listen, we need you to do things a little differently now. You're not going to spend as much time building and getting new sales with existing customers because we have a customer service team now to do that. We need you more focused on the newer sales. That's how as a company we're going to get to these levels and everybody kind of the rising tide lifts all ships. And you can get pushback from sales teams on that because they've built these relationships. They built things where from an incentive standpoint, you have to figure all those things out. Where like, well, if there's new sales coming in, I should get all that, the way you did in the past, and it's not going to work the same because you have someone new coming in and building those relationships, identifying those things. So, but you need to show your sales team, yeah, no, I get it, but you're going to be even more successful if we do things this way and build it this way, because you're going to be able to bring in and bigger sales for that part of it. So there's that's a big part of identifying great salespeople too, is the ability to do that and the ability to be able to grow as the company grows because they won't be able to continue to just do just the same thing. It's you can muscle through a lot of stuff at the beginning, but that won't continue to work to really grow the company to the levels that you want to get to.
So I want to ask you around the thoughtfulness of that leadership team, or the thought to be put into it, because it seems as though so the context of, so let's say we have a CTO or CIO or CFO or CMO or CRO, and that that and you had mentioned earlier, you can get lost in titles,
Yeah.
but it seems as though, okay, what's the Avengers team that has to be piecemealed together? The value of that Avengers team, it seems to have is dependent upon the context of the environment, the product, the industry, the model, the strategy. Like there's certain checklist of things. What's the product? What's the market? What's the industry? What's the strategy? What are these things? How do we need to show up
Yeah.
at this given time? And then, okay, we need this C-suite role, this C-suite role, this C-suite role, not because we're obsessed with language, but because there's, like you said, I learned the CRO, uh, the sales, marketing. This is my takeaway from your teaching on the CRO. Is sales can miss the forest of the trees absent a strong reminder about the customer's value to the organization and the purpose of the organization. And marketing will be less will be less proactive absent that reminder.
Yep.
And the chief revenue officer aligns the interest of both towards the customer journey to not only maintain value but untap value.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
like,
because when you look at, sales is going to be, continue to chase new logos, going after new clients, finding those new sales and everything. And a lot of times I'll see that mistake in a chief revenue officer, especially someone who's newer to the role, who doesn't understand as much, or it's not as defined as well as it should be, where they'll start to ignore the retention and expansion part of it. So and continue to grow with the existing customers. So from the CRO standpoint, yeah, they have to. All those things are just as important, and even the partnerships part of it too. That has become a huge part of that role of looking at those things. So you have the sales, you have the marketing, the service, and building a good partnership process and strategy, and doing those things again can help all of those. From a marketing standpoint, you work with your customers and do joint marketing and getting things out there to build that awareness for both of you. From a sales standpoint, it brings in new opportunities and bring those in. And then that customer service team can build relationships with those partners as well. So that's a big part of it also.
and you're saying that the technological advancement with AI,
Yeah.
for example, that it can lower costs, increase speed, alleviate labor costs, and the speed of that, having that
Yep.
leader in that seat can be extremely valuable to an
Exactly.
organization as a flat value.
Yes, yeah, because you're going to own all those systems, from a chief tech, CTO standpoint or IT standpoint. Obviously, they're involved with those systems as well, but you're going to own them from the process of getting them to work and doing all those things. So when you talk about uh, building the pipeline, using the CRM systems, using the all the systems that marketing will use, building those out. So that's why I almost said it's, you almost have that role is becoming more of a combination chief systems officer, or maybe sharing that role with IT or CTO, to build that, to those. So those are, they've always been very important to that role, but now as it's becoming, almost, defining in some areas of being able to do this. So if that role, that person doesn't understand where AI is in the organization and where some of these systems have grown. Everything everything's got AI in it now. It's kind of like the when the dot coms became before they came the dot bombs, they're already talking about the AI bubble. Where everybody's slapping AI in so they can say, oh, it's AI driven AI, and again, overused term and putting those things in there. So really being able to cut through the noise and the BS. And
Listen, I can do more and better podcasts
yeah,
research more quickly with,
oh,
yeah,
absolutely,
right. So that's like a personal,
yeah,
to acknowledge you on that. We can have a better podcast the more fluid my relationship is with the whole world's information, to ask better questions, to
yep,
share insights. Like that's just one example of how much I I believe our show is becoming better because of the engagement with the knowledge bases that are growing from.
yeah,
We can do a whole. We'll have to have you back, do a whole show on that if you'd be willing to come back. I
absolutely,
I learned so much in this episode. Oh, that's another thing I want to share is that I learned so much so fast when I'm engaging with my LLM
right,
while I talk to brilliant people like yourself. I'm learning so fast because I'm in the thesaurus, the encyclopedia, and I just like sorry, Jamie, Jamie on Joe Rogan. Sorry, we don't need you anymore. We have, it's now you're out. It's the host is right here. Howard Stern is inside of
right.
the
A
guest of
friend of
mine.
mine wanted to do a website. I think like look that up, Jamie.com or something. Something along those lines where it's you can go to find this information or do all that. But yeah,
No,
that
it's immediate. I mean, I'm
yeah.
doing it. I'm interested. I'm engaged. I'm trying to think, oh, what's this
Oh,
about?
some of the deep research and some of the what they've added to some of these tools has been amazing. And again, you have to kind of know a little bit about what you're saying or double check the information just like anything else. But yeah, you definitely can shortcut a lot of things and get what you need a lot quicker. And that's something that's is huge. I'll leave it. We didn't get into this, but I know we had to pull here. But I really talked about the culture of it. Because we're on the culture matters and a CRO, their culture is really to build that growth culture, data driven. So obviously that's where the AI and the systems come into it. A customer first, collaborative, across all the again overused term silos of marketing, service, and even the partnership. So building that growth culture, data driven, customer first, and collaborative across the company. That's the culture that a CRO wants to build and put in place.
I love it. Matt, we'll have to have you back to explore that culture piece,
Yeah.
part two. Thank you so much for coming back on the Culture Matters podcast. We
All right, my friend.
need more time. If you're listening to this show, go listen to episode 313 and 571. Was that right? I'm not reading that. I'm pretty, let me make sure here. 591. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I got the one and the three missed.
Just go back and watch them all through, and then you'll see me and a lot of other much better people
It's
than
a good thing I looked it
than
up.
us.
It was 331 and 591.
Thanks. Reverse
I,
them a bit. That's
and
fine.
listen to Matt. Go listen to all of them in order. There's
There you go.
1003. This is probably 1004.
So that's the way.
Matt, where can people connect with you? Follow you on Instagram or one
Yeah,
of
yeah. Just go to mattmchale.com. I think I'm kicking that over my LinkedIn right now, or you can go Instagram or X. I'm Matt McHale on there, or my company's Arcasys. So find me at arcasysllc.com. But yeah, just mattmchale.com is the best way, and then you can connect through my LinkedIn or one of the other
love
social
it.
channels.
Please share this with someone that would deeply benefit from thinking about what's their leadership team makeup today. How are they viewing their customer? As Peter Drucker said, the purpose of a business is to create and keep a customer. So if you're interested in these topics, or people that are, share this with your network, and we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Jay.